Hello, everyone. Hey, Denise, thanks for joining me.
Oh, so it's your show? It's not our show?
We are co-hosting. That's a good point. We are exploring consciousness together in business. So hopefully everybody can see us live. Just checking to make sure everybody can. If you can't, go ahead and just post a comment here and we'll make sure that we get this going. You know, LinkedIn can be a little bit buggy sometimes, and we're streaming to YouTube as well for those YouTubers out there. And it's exciting. So I'm just going to kick
excited. I'm incredibly excited. I cannot keep my excitedness down. So just factor that, everyone, as you watch this. The over the topness is part of my nature, but I'm extra over the top right now. So thank you, Adam, for inviting me and doing this.
You are welcome. And again, thanks for us being together and doing this. I mean, we've been talking about this for a while now, and I feel like the time is right to have this conversation. And you know, just let's talk about the show and what we're going to get into, right? So to start, consciousness and business. I mean, pretty big topics, right?
Diametrically opposed. The Venn diagram is like it's growing, but the diametric opposition of those two things is really fascinating. And I sort of believe that we are working towards finding a way to put them together, which is why this show is here. And we talk about it all the time. It's not like this is a made up topic for, oh, let's do a show so we can have a show. We talk about this all the time, Adam and I, you and I. And it's been so interesting that, I don't know, we need to bring it to the world. Adam?
Yes, exactly. So I'm just making sure LinkedIn, all of our LinkedIn viewers can see us okay, and
I don't
and
do
everything
tech.
else.
I don't tech, not me. Tech Adam. You should talk about your background in business, Adam, if you're ready.
Yeah, I am. So we're good. LinkedIn's moving. It's a little bit laggy, but we'll hang in there. So let's talk about why we're actually even qualified to have this conversation, right, Denise? I mean, you know,
Exactly.
we talk about it's like, what is our sort of authority on this? And I will say this, and Denise can back me up on this, is we're students of this, but we are trying to apply it in a new way to business. I think consciousness itself has been applied in an individual performance perspective. It really hasn't been put together in a broader, I would say, like idea around business. So my background in business is, well, I have a few master's degrees and all the standard academic stuff you could want. You know, I've got a couple of those. You know, I've worked as a chief marketing officer in, you know, Fortune 500 companies, you know, big responsibilities. And, you know, and I started my career actually as a graphic designer. And I kept moving up the ladder, as not because I was swinging ascend because I wanted to chase the brass ring. I'm sure there was some of that because I've always been, you know, I've been competitive and I've been driven for success and all that stuff. But, you know, it's really, you know, I kind of elevated every time when I didn't believe in sort of the business strategy. So as a designer, I didn't really believe in the creative direction that I was getting. And then I moved up to creative director. And then as a creative director, I didn't really like the marketing direction I was being given. So I was like, I moved up to the marketing. And then as a marketer, I didn't really like the business decisions happening. So I became the sort of CEO where I am today. Yeah. And I think it's also important. I'm based out of the Washington, D.C. area, specifically Great Falls, Virginia. Denise, you're coming from good, beautiful Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Bayside, Wisconsin.
Nice. So we are, you know, coming from different parts of the country, and we have viewers.
We have different paths. I mean,
So talk about your business path. I mean, you have an incredible business path as well.
Yeah, I mean, the paths are so different, and yours was big company path, big global company path, living all over the world, doing this stuff. My path was small to medium-sized businesses. And, I have always done something in the agency world. I went client side once for 2 years, because I thought I needed to do that. But similarly, I have been a copywriter and an art director and an agency president three times. And now I'm the chief strategy officer here. And what I bring to the table is, boy, the inner workings of hundreds. I don't know if it's hit 1,000 yet, different businesses where you're looking at their marketing and their strategy and who does it and how they execute and what they think and where their origin story is. I've seen hundreds of these. And the small to medium business bit is like, well, okay, I worked with the Milwaukee Brewers. They're a medium business. They're not a small business, but they're a medium business. They're not like some global juggernaut. So it is that's what I bring to the table. And the idea of consciousness for me, well, that's always been there too. And over the course of time, you start your personality. I always call people who age, they're like a reduction sauce. So all the inert ingredients, all the cultural ingredients goes out, and they become this reduction sauce, this ultra intense person. And I'm like I'm a reduction. I'm an ultra intense person. I get it. I don't care if you don't like it, but I'm an ultra intense person with regards to both business and spirituality. So take it or leave it kind of thing. But I also am not so dogmatic that I don't listen. I have to listen. It's a whole career of listening. And modification and learning and continuous improvement. So
and we're going to get into all the consciousness, because I think that's part of what we want to cover today, right? There's a lot of topics. So let's just talk about the podcast format in general and what we're trying to accomplish here, right? It's really the combination we said it's consciousness entering the building of business and corporatism and all of that stuff. And we could talk about that, and there's some information we're going to share here, but we really want to dig deep, right, Denise? I mean,
oh, hell yeah. Consciousness has to enter the building, because when you bring it all down to, you are in your deathbed, you are on the porch, and oatmeal is coming from your face and you're looking back on your life. When you come down to it, it is not about business. Your life is about consciousness, relationships, vibrations that you felt, vibrations that you gave. Your life isn't about meeting a sales goal. So this is really important stuff.
Yeah. I mean, as we go deep in this, my realization on this is you said it. Consciousness is everything. It's all around us, right? You call it nature, science, God, universe, whatever you want to call it. I think the other important piece is there's laws to the universe, and most people are ignorant. Almost, I'm not saying everybody is, and that's a strong statement, but a lot of people are walking around almost like a monkey with a handgun, and they really don't understand what is why things are happening, the cause and effect, and the real reality is it's all based on our own belief systems and our own vibrations. Everything just reflects what we think in our head, right?
Right, and it's also imagine all the origin stories in the world, because everyone's got one, and how you were raised, truly extraordinarily important. to your belief systems, your conduct throughout your whole life, and how you influence next generations, how you influence business trends, mega trends, and it's kind of predictable, so when you're a strategist and when you're on a spiritual journey and you start reading a lot, you see that there is a predictability here, and how you were raised is how you interpret certain things that are happening. So yeah, it's about your vibration and your consciousness, but sometimes you got to knock on the door really loud to answer the door. Sometimes you can just knock on it a little bit. Sometimes you got to knock on the door really loud to hear it and get it.
Well, so we have, again, it says we're going to end at 2 Eastern time today, depending on where you are, a couple hours. But, really, we just wanted to give ourselves enough time. Like you said earlier, we don't want to cut off a good conversation, and we're going to go with the flow. This is consciousness, and going with the flow is part of being aware, and being in that flow state is something anybody who understands consciousness is something they're always trying to achieve, right? And that's staying in that sort of high level vibration. So let's get into it. Let's get into it deeper. I mean, we're going to have great guests on, from experts everywhere from a quantum physicists to metaphysicists to entrepreneurs to great influencers. So I'm just so excited. The first one, you get Denise and I, and it's not just, I feel like we bring a lot of influence and knowledge here, as we just talked about, and we're going to get into our own consciousness journey here in a bit. But let's just sort of level set, Denise. I'm going to share a couple slides here, and we're going to have this sort of discussion. So we talk about frequencies, and I think a lot of people aren't even aware of this universal law of vibration. Period, right? Period. This is, many say math is the architecture of the universe, and I do believe that, but everything is a frequency, and let's talk about that.
And that's the language of the universe. Math is an architecture, but math and vibration are all connected because there's levels, and vibration is measured through math. So they are connected, like, there's Siamese twins.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. And it's very cool. So I am gonna let's walk through this slide. So law of vibration, and there's some quantum physics in here. There's some research and other various studies, but I want to talk about it so everybody has a sort of understanding, a basic understanding of some foundational things, elements of the universe around us. And so let's talk about law of vibration. A few things. I'm going to build up to where we're just teasing out. But, let's start with thoughts. Thoughts are waves. I mean, and a lot of people don't realize how powerful thoughts are. Thoughts are everything. And when you tie it with an emotion, which is what? Energy in motion, that's when you can manifest and create things. That's what causes your reality. So a negative thought tied with a negative emotion, well, that brings a negative experience into your life. And the universe there's good versus bad, this idea, right? The universe,
that's cultural, by the way. And I talk a lot about that because cultural means around the world. Cultural means in a big city versus a rural city. So when you are a planner or a strategist, you have to go to the culture first to find out what you're working with. Good, evil, totally cultural. The universe doesn't care. It is neither here nor there. It's not if you do this, I mean, karma is like, a bitch. Everybody says that, but it's neither here nor there.
Yeah, and that's a really great point. So it is a love-based, abundance-based universe, and that is great to know, right? So the universe wants to give you what it thinks you want, and if you're thinking about negative stuff and putting an emotion to that negative feelings, it's a very powerful thing. You will keep bringing that into your experience because consciousness is the game. This is the experience, and the diversity of ideas and that whole diversity, which is a whole. We're going to have a conversation around inclusion and diversity, not today, but in a future podcast. I think it's a good business topic. But that's the universe wants diversity. That's the key. The universe needs to experience itself, to know itself through diversity, good and bad experiences.
Right.
Go ahead,
And
Denise.
the vibration thing is also not species specific to humans. Sorry, it is not. Animals vibrate, plants vibrate, trees vibrate, fungi vibrates, rocks vibrate, planetary systems vibrate. So to think of it in terms of human experience, which we kind of have up here right now, is just a part of the story. So I'm just going to say that. Lots of data, lots of research on that, lots of, that's why they play certain kinds of music to get good grapes in Italy, is because they grow better on a certain kind of vibe.
Right. And so let's talk about so if thoughts are waves, matter is particles, okay? And then there's this new thing in quantum physics called, maybe it's not that new. I'm not a quantum physicist. I study this stuff, but there are plenty of people that know much more about this and deeper. Is wave particle duality. And really the discovery there was a wave in a particle, meaning thoughts and matter are the same.
Yeah.
Right?
So a thought is energy. Energy slowed down is matter.
Right. And that creates our physical world around us. So everything around us is powered by thoughts, period. And meaning the experience and everything. I mean, and there's a lot of good research coming out of University of California where and we could get into this, and we hope to have them on this show in the future dates, but uncovering that this is all a simulation. The reason why the sun is yellow is because from a social construct perspective, we all agree it's yellow. And then it gets passed down from a DNA code perspectives. And so all of that is tied to a universal consciousness. And so an energy can't get destroyed, right? So when you think about if wave and particles are energy, and then and all energy then has a vibrational frequency, which means everything is, like you said, a vibration.
So when you hear and okay, we're in the matrix, and this is a glitch in the matrix, or that is a cultural assignment to the idea that this is a simulation because we as humans are observing it and factoring it through our own heads, which our heads make metaphors, they're cultural, they're on the continuum of the ability to understand and process. So when we say we're in a simulation, it's a universe that we are projecting on our own personal infrastructure.
Right. And then that's how the universe experiences and learns more about itself through those personal experiences. And then those are the catalysts that we learn on a soul level, which we'll get into in another date, but it gets deep. Like, you have the rabbit hole behind you, and the rabbit hole goes deep for sure. So let's talk about this multicolor funnel here. And what is this? So what we have here on the right is a measurement of sort of energy and frequencies in a way tied to emotions or feelings. And a gentleman who's no longer with us, Dr. David Hawkins, he was a psychiatrist who studied energy and consciousness. And he researched hundreds of thousands of patients over decades of time and really kind of mapped out, based on kinesiology and other best practices, about how the physical reactions to words and feelings, whether you get stronger or weaker and so forth, and how that occurs. So what we have here, And for those that will be joining us via the audio recorded version, we'll try to explain this so you guys can see this. But I recommend you going out and looking up Map of Consciousness by Dr. David Hawkins. And there's tons of good literature out there, great books, a great book to read. It can be a little bit slow at first, as Denise will testify, is Power versus Force. There are Cliff Note versions too. So, and we'll try to summarize it here for you, but it's really fascinating. Then another one is Letting Go. That's a really good process too. And we'll get into that in not in this podcast, but you can see there's tons of opportunity to talk deeply about all these topics. So what we have here is, Dr. David Hawkins mapped out the idea that we just discussed. If frequencies and energy is all frequencies, and emotions, energy and motion, what are the powerful frequencies versus the low level frequencies? We wanted to know, why does good always beat evil? Why, and I'm not saying good, but love over fear. That's a better way of saying it.
Yeah.
And you look here at a cycle of the numbers on the left, enlightenment being the highest, peace, joy, love, and shame and guilt being the lowest forms of vibrations. Well, it's interesting because, through his research, creativity and creation happens at roughly the 200 or 250 on up. So neutrality, that's when you're really basically, you're not negative, you're not necessarily positive, you're just kind of in a limbo, you have an understanding, and there's abundance. And we'll talk about it, but the United States as a country, as a collective is a little bit closer up to the acceptance and the reason. We're not as high as love and anything like that, but as a collective, and it has been mapped out, and many will say the US is the highest from a frequency perspective. And even when we feel like we're disconnected and coming from opposing sides, we're still, good news is still better than most of the world when it comes to frequency and vibration.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that if you're looking at this, you're going, oh, looks like chakras. Yeah, it looks like chakras. If you're into chakras, and a lot of people at least recognize that, okay, if you don't know what chakras is, there are chakras that go from your base of your naughty bits all the way up to your head. And your head is this indigo place that can go even farther. And when you're struggling to survive, you're kind of at your lowest chakra, where it is survival based. And there are any number of ways to look at this spectrum. I personally don't like our language when we talk about autistic people being on the spectrum. We're all on the spectrum. We are all on a vibration, on a frequency that when we walk in a room, we emit it. Right. So that's the thing that I like about this. But I am personally, the culture thing for me is such a veil. It's a veil on a veil on a veil to what is really life. And this thing, this crazy little, 700 plus, which is okay, he's making that shit up. But
I always say it's directional, right?
He's making it up. It's like, okay, it's a certain color here.
It's an arbitrary number.
It's like
in many
down
ways.
on above.
Yeah.
But this thing for me, and the redundancy will happen where I will keep going back and going back and going back to it, is the infrastructure of behavior. It is the infrastructure of action. It's the infrastructure of everything. And if you want to apply good and evil to it, that's a cultural thing, but it's the infrastructure for that.
Right. And so, that's a great point. And so when we think about it, right, the numbers are directional. The order has been, as you said, it's been researched. So we know the order of things and which is more powerful than the next. And the really fascinating part here is through research and through now epigenetics and other really fascinating research that's being done in just health. When somebody operates at a lower frequency out of fear, grief, apathy, guilt, shame, that's actually where disease is created in the body. So now what they're finding out, and when I say they, a lot of health researchers and science is like the they topic, like really it's this nebulous, we don't know who they are, right? It's something else.
Capital
But,
they.
but various researchers on health and epigenetics are discovering is that this is where cancer is created. You cannot remain in a fear-based level with your adrenaline running all the time and everything else and not create disease in your body. Go ahead.
Well, and I just want to say, because we both come from different perspectives, and even though we believe the same thing, we also believe different things. I'm not suggesting that guilty people will get cancer, and I don't think you are either.
Nope.
However, when we say something like this is where cancer grows, or this is where a disconnect in the body grows, regardless of what it is, fear, fear and trembling. Some people will get that, some people won't. This is where bad things grow. And I do believe that if you elevate your own energy system higher, you will feel better, you will project better, and you will attract better to you. So some of the stuff on this bottom, you can't help. I'm sorry. I know that, Adam, you say you can't go back after you're really high on energy in life. I've kind of seen it go the other way, and I've experienced it too. So it is a practice to maintain it. It is a practice.
And I would say also, Denise, we're at different parts of this spectrum too. So it's not like we're all in shame or guilt all the time, or we're all in enlightenment and peace all the time, right? Different aspects of our life. It could be a project, it could be something else. I mean, frustration and fear, I've experienced it, and you have to find mechanisms to overcome it, right? Because fear really is false evidence appearing real.
Yeah, and the mind killer.
Yeah, and that's a whole other conversation we're going to have. But I think the other part is when you think about fear, it's the fearing a future based on past experiences that may have gone negative, right? It has no meaning that the past will happen in the future, only if you bring it forward, right?
Exactly.
Because that's the construct, the memory construct you're creating, and you're manifesting it in your future state. And when it comes to cancer and other things, accidents happen, tragedy happen, people get cancer, even at operating at a high level of frequency. I mean, look at Bob Marley. I am sure the guy operated a high level frequency and died because of basically had cancer of the toe, if I'm correct. People fact check me, please. He made a choice of not to heal it, to cure it. He could have, but because that's his religion. But the point is we'll get into some soul journeys, life planning stuff, which is fascinating. And there's other topics about how we all have sort of exit plans, pre-life planning, and all of that fun stuff. We'll get into that, not today, but I think we'll find that this is a really interesting topic. But I wanted to just real quickly, as we're talking about what its effect, you see the physical effect. The body is what, 90% or plus. Again, fact check me. I'm not trying to be correct. A whole lot. We're majority made of water. Is my point. And I think the really interesting piece here is the water experiment by Dr. Emoto. Now, many people will say, "Oh, was it really done in the sort of research rigidity of the scientific model and method and all of that stuff?" And there's a lot of people, I'm sure, on the scientific community that will disagree with him. I mean, I think it's less and less now. However, because of the epigenetics research that's happening, but it's quite interesting. And we see two frozen water drops here. And I want to just kind of explain how the process went. So Dr. Emoto brought one person in one room, and then put a water droplet in the other room. And they were supposed to say words with those emotions behind those words to those water droplets. And then they froze those water droplets. So we're talking, they're not close to it. They're not yelling at it. They're in another room, but they're emoting that emotion towards that water droplet. Then they froze it. And there's tons of cool things that you can research other things, like the words like Hitler, which was a real muddy mess. I hate you, these type of things. But these two water droplets froze. The top one is joy, beautiful crystallization, potential. And the bottom one was shame, like you're terrible. I forget, or maybe that is I hate you. And I think, and look how muddied and muddled it is. And that's where I want everybody to kind of get their heads around, because if this is happening at a crystal level, what is happening to your body when you're most of this stuff? So the real reality is words and emotions are far more destructive than anything.
Which goes back to language and how we have so many languages on this earth. And okay, the language of the universe is vibration. Let's say that. When it snows, it's bringing joy to you. It's not a bad thing. The universe is showering you with joy. So I love snow, therefore this is correct. But if you Google this experiment, Dr. Emoto, it's gorgeous. I mean, the photography, and it's so well designed. It's so pretty. Just Google it, go find it. It's a gorgeous, beautiful demonstration of what Adam was saying.
So then it's like, we think about this from a business perspective, right? And we'll come back to this and talk about some businesses and where they fall in this sort of spectrum. I would say most businesses are driven in fear, desire, anger, some pride, possibly. There's courage. There is some love. There's definitely joy. There are some that are doing it, but the majority of what we live in from a business perspective, a corporate culture perspective, is at a lower level frequency. So now, if you think about it from a business perspective, this is a competitive advantage, but even the idea of competition is fear-based, a lack-based. And so what we're trying to say is the universe is abundant. If you're worried that somebody's going to take something from you, then you're in a low-level vibration, because that's just not how it is. The universe doesn't decide winners and losers. It is just give everything to everybody. So we have created a lack culturally in companies and everything else. Oh, I got to make quota. Oh, that competitor, they're going to take this from us. Well, yeah, you keep believing that they will, but there isn't a fight for market share. We talk about this in market invention all the time. You can create your own community, your own market. You're not taking anything from anybody. There's just creating more for everyone.
Yeah, the universe is not a zero-sum formula. It doesn't work that way.
So let's get
zero-sum.
So let's get into that, Denise, because I think that's a great segue into
look at that.
How capitalism is evolving. Now I'm gonna move us here so we're not in the way of some of the words here. But so let's kind of go through this. Capitalism has evolved, and I am a big believer in capitalism until there's a better model in it. And Denise and I will go back and forth on this. So go ahead, Denise.
I have a lesser view of capitalism, but that's okay. We have come together.
Well, because, I believe that there could be a better systems. I just mean that it is a performance-based system. It requires productivity. It gets people, but it has not been purpose-driven in the past, and it has been authoritarian in version 1, right?
Right. And Adam and I are both history buffs. We are both students of history. So when we say the past is gone, for all practical purposes, yes, there are things you can learn from the past, and we both love like military history.
Mhm.
We love looking at economies over the course of time. We love talking about culture and how it happened, even the DNA of the earth has all contributed to everything that we're seeing now. So you look at DNA. So what I'm trying to say is we love history.
Well, and if you follow Einstein or any quantum physicists, time is obviously an illusion. I mean, we are in a time and space reality because that's how we move matter through space is with time. Is you need time in this reality, in this manifestation. However, outside of this, matrix is a negative term, so I don't want to call it a matrix. This experiential 3D experience, so that we can learn learn more about ourselves and really come closer to who our true higher self is. You realize that time doesn't exist on the other side. It's all infinite.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I just want to say, a good friend of mine taught me this. You know who you are. You steal from me all the time. The one thing I'm going to steal from you is, when you go to different cultures, time doesn't mean what it means here.
True.
You go to India and time is like, are you going to get this to me at 5:00? The answer is, I hear you. Yeah. It's not yes.
Yeah.
Time is different in every culture. Its importance, its how it's measured, how it connects to a promise. The time thing that we have is really kind of like the United States. And even if you look at the United States geographically, you'll go, oh, work with the people on the West Coast, but they're kind of laid back and they won't get back to you. And they're just kind of like, oh, all right. work with people on the East Coast. And I got to get this done. Where is it? The redirect, time is cultural.
Well, and you're right. And the other part is when we go, thinking about consciousness, the high level, operating in a high level frequency is a place of power. Working at the low level frequency is a place of force. Like, oh, I have to go do this. I'm gonna force it until it gets done. Well, anything you have to force is a low level vibration. So the minute you stop forcing it, it falls apart. So really, you should focus on things where you feel inspired action that are power, making abundance-based decisions. And I think that is a key to the evolution of capitalism. We're moving from a fear-based, decision-based process to an abundance, high-level vibration, much illustrated by the map of consciousness by Dr. Hawkins. And if you look at the original version, zero-sum, profit-driven, closed source, monopoly focused, small groups receive the majority. Well, we're talking like industrial revolution type level stuff, right? It wasn't until after World War II where we went through a major consciousness event, World War II in itself. And many metaphysicists will argue that that was a planned catalyst to get us to a higher evolution and consciousness faster. And that was at a soul level. Think about it on the other side of the veil. We're all love and abundance all the time. We don't look at things like this in the same way that we look when we're in the experience itself. I'm not saying the Holocaust and everything was planned and all that stuff, and it was a good thing. I'm not saying that at all. But it did, all of this was pretty intense. And it got us to a higher level as a planet at a higher level of consciousness. So we moved from a authoritarian level, the industrial revolution type of thinking, where you've got the jungle, Upton Sinclair's book, The Jungle, and all of this stuff, to a shareholder base. But it's still flawed. It's still lack. It's still based on lack. And anybody who talks about their competitors in a competitive way is somebody that is afraid to lose something, which means they're still stuck in capitalism 2.0. Go ahead, Denise, you're gonna say something?
Yeah, because I'm like,
sorry. I'll keep going, as you know, on this.
Okay. Yeah, I have to interrupt him because He will set a record for longest diatribe.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's a good thing. That's why we love you, Adam. But when you look at capitalism 2.0, shareholder capitalism, and that's not gone. That's
Right.
still here.
Right.
And there's a whole lot of people living this day to day where solutions are earning focused. Earning for who? For the shareholders who own this. So when you are looking at shareholder capitalism, the decision trees that happen are always ladder up to shareholder earnings. What does this mean for the shareholder? Now, people in general like infrastructure. They like those decision journeys. They like rules. They like lanes where they can stay into. And when someone comes out of their lane, they like a binary way to, okay, this is what I, this is out of, okay, I'm getting confused and crazy. What do I do? You go back to the rule, you go back to the law, and then you say, okay, what's best for the company? Now, what's best for the company is different than what's best for everybody or involved in the ecosystem of this origin, this company influence. What's best for the company isn't what's best for the employees in the company. What's best for the vendors that work for the company. No, what's best for the company. So this is where you see historically look at any freaking graph about what has happened since World War II with regards to the earning power of people who work and the shareholders who have benefited from this kind of rule. It's out of control. It's freaking out of control. It's insane. At some point, this breaks. And the presumption is that it's breaking right now.
It is.
Because we have some problems. There are problems.
Well,
it's not sustainable. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it needs to let it go. We need, in many ways, shareholder capitalism is based on a scarcity perspective or force-based culture. I think everybody is saying, well, everybody's quitting and nobody's coming back. Is this great awakening, or they're being lazy and eating, Twinkies on their couch. They don't want to come back to work. The government's paying them to not come back. It's because nobody believes in this system. People are letting go of this version of capitalism. And it's natural. This is natural. It's actually the other two versions of capitalism were unnatural, actually.
Yeah.
Lower.
Capitalism is a garden. And if a flower doesn't bloom in a garden, you don't change the flower, you change the garden. All these people who are leaving are changing the garden. And the thing that I have learned over time, remember those hundreds of clients that I've worked with? I've seen hundreds of P&Ls. I've worked with hundreds of strategic plans. And when you look at how they are constructed, the strategic plans are predicated. I'm trying to use a metaphor here. Don't send emails or shit like that. It's predicated on, and I'm going to use the word loosely, slaves.
Yeah.
Every single P&L, let's just call it in what was the movie, like, Greed is Good. Okay, what's that? 1980s. every single P&L is predicated on having a certain amount of people work for very low wages. Otherwise,
Is that Wall Street?
yeah, Wall Street, my bad. Otherwise, profit doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So when you think of, oh my God, we can't pay people more because we can't make our numbers work. Okay, you can't pay people more because your entire foundation is structured on slave labor.
Yep.
You know, when the you look over time, $7 and the minimum wage has not changed.
Well,
profit has changed.
And Denise, to that point, it is actually not natural for us to say, "Oh, I got to work for a living," but that's not my passion. I work for the weekend. That's not natural, and I think everybody is waking up to that, knowing there's a knowingness, and you know, other people, other peers, and CEOs will say, "Well, Adam, the world needs ditch diggers too." You know, quote from Caddyshack, and yeah, we do need to dig ditches. Ditches are important, and there's nothing wrong with that. And there's great companies that do this, but the reality is, it's okay to be digging ditches if you love doing that, but it ain't okay if you're forced into that because you need to make a living, and it's the only way you think you can, and that is an unfortunate. I'm not trying to take away what real realities for people are, and sometimes you have to do what it takes, and I'm not afraid of that, and my parents certainly had, you know, and so I grew up in an environment that you work hard and you get it done, and I'm not taking any of that away. And sometimes, and there's nothing wrong if you have to work for McDonald's, then work for McDonald's. If that's the way you got to make your living in the short term, that's okay. I just mean for the long-term perspective, it's not sustainable. And that's what we're seeing break down, you know, all around us. And that's where we got to move into this karmic model. And we're not the first ones to call it karmic. Actually, Dr. Bruce Goldberg, he has a book, Karmic Capitalism. It's a great book to read. Hopefully we'll be able to get him on the show and we can talk through this stuff. But it is a big shift, but it's not a shift to something new. It's actually shifting to our truth. We're getting closer to our truth than we were previously. And this will be the death of capitalism if it can't move through this truth. And it's going to be the fault of the CEOs for these companies who are holding back because they're afraid. They're afraid of not, you know, being fired. They're afraid of, you know, ruining the business if they go to this. But, you know, that's all fear-based. You know, all of it is fear-based.
All of it. And again, you're going back to the language of the universe here, of fear and the vibration of fear that permeates everything. And there are distinctions here because, oh, you guys are sounding like communists or socialists. It's like, okay, no, we're not. Let's talk about, and I'm not going to do it today, but I would like in a future episode to talk about the different economic models. This is economic modeling and the role of government as it connects to that. No, we're not talking about socialism.
Government handouts. We're not talking about any of that stuff.
No.
Right.
When you look at the academic definitions of these things, when you look at as it relates to economy, when you look at as it relates to monarchies, democracies, those are governments, economies, government structures. And when you start to look at it, religion is a different thing. All of these things are infrastructures for culture and the lanes. These are all lanes. And we are centering this on capitalism because capitalism, it's what we're living in it now. This is what the United States is based on. Let's fix it rather than destroy it. And the fix is coming. It exists. coming, and it's going to come harder.
Yeah, law of compounding. That's a whole other conversation we can have. So if you're watching this, listening to this right now, and you're saying, Denise, Adam, the world doesn't work like this. You guys, you don't I will say is do 100 hours of research on this before you say that. First. Second, know that the trend is your friend. And this is where we will go back to our strategic minds in business. And we always say this. This is a mega trend. This is actually a universal trend that's been happening since the history of humankind on this planet. We have kept evolving to a higher level of consciousness and conscious awareness. So everything we're seeing on the outside, as far as people quitting, quietly quitting, whatever, what they're really telling you is shareholder capitalism isn't working. They may not be able to articulate karmic, but they just know it's not right, and there's a knowingness there.
Yes. And what is missing from this chart, which I think is a I'm going to call it a blip in time, but it's popular right now, and people are talking about it and working through it, is the difference between stakeholder and shareholder. So stakeholder capitalism and shareholder capitalism, the difference is one benefits the people who hold shares in the organization from we have this, we get money when this works as a bonus. And one is based on everybody in the organization has a stake in the idea of success, whether that is monetary success, and you have to define your success, everyone. But monetary success, and the ecosystem's success. So I personally think, okay, it's hot right now. I see it all the time. But this karmic capitalism is truly, as we have it in our heads, is truly the evolution of where we're at right now, which is stakeholder capitalism.
Well, in the key difference, right, about the difference of karmic versus stakeholder capitalism is stakeholder capitalism doesn't have consciousness entering the building. It's a very academic, and many people will say a very ivory tower. We're gonna force this on people because it's the ESG right thing to do, and that's another topic we'll have. But that's all surface. That's all. In fact, conscious capitalism, which is another term for stakeholder capitalism. Conscious, the brain, and we'll get into this in a later podcast, but conscious, there's a subconscious and the conscious mind. The conscious mind actually gets controlled by the subconscious mind. So it really is surface level. And the individuals, not to take anything away from them, there's still some good progress here that they're bringing aboard. It's still missing the point.
It's missing the root.
Yeah, it's missing. It's shallow. It's
shallow. And ESG, for people who don't know, pretty hot right now, is what is it? Environmental sustainability and governance.
Governance, yeah.
So when it's like, oh, you have to be an ESG corporation where because that's how we're supposed to be in 2022.
So I can get my shareholders to stay with us, and they boycott us, basically. And that's a lot of the fear driving that, honestly.
So, let's have women in, the boardroom. It's all good. Women in the boardroom. Let's make sure we have an environmental footprint, and that we're doing sustainability audits and stuff like that. When ESG got super popular, which was like, it started to 5 years ago, it was like, oh, this is the hot thing. I read so many articles after about 2 years of it where people were going, ESG doesn't work. Does it work for what? Doesn't work for comparative profit. ESG doesn't work because we're not more profitable with ESG than we were without it. Now, what's wrong with that statement? So when you look at ESG, it's like people perceive it as woke capitalism. I have a whole tirade about woke too. Woke, but we're not going to do that today, or maybe we will.
No, that's a whole other
Capitalism.
conversation. We'll go
That's
with,
a whole other
we'll call that
conversation.
the woke culture is
Again, it's
unconscious.
words that are bothering me. People are owning words and making those words mean something to them where the actual definition of the word is not shared by all.
Right.
So woke means 25 different things. And then the loudest voices are saying woke is bad. It means 25 different things. It is on a continuum of definition. Anyway, going back, what was I saying? I can't remember.
So yeah, when we talk about the ESG trends and all this stuff, it really is surface level. What we're trying to say here is karmic, and we went through lots of different terms and how we could do it, and honestly, Dr. Goldberg nailed it. I mean, and a lot of people will say, "Oh, karmic, oh, that's spiritual. You're talking about crystals and like woo-woo stuff and all that." That unfortunately comes from ignorance. And anybody who has gone down this path, has really explored consciousness, can't go back. You really can't. Yeah. And then you activate a knowingness that there's certainly distortions out there. There is a veil of forgetfulness that we have in this lifetime, and that's by design, right? If we remembered everything, then this game would be easy. So even stuff we say, I think it's directionally correct, but we may be off, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But just be aware of those distortions out there.
Yes, please be aware of distortions, and don't just take what we say superficially, because there's, we're using language, and language has lots of issues because of the meaning. So when we say freedom, it's like, oh boy, two sides of the aisle, politics. Who owns freedom? Everybody owns freedom, but one side might think it owns it better or more, or is saying that that's our word, than the other side. So language is a really, 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 really big deal here. And when I said you can't go back, it's like, I've seen people go back. I think the difference that Adam and I are talking about, because it's like, okay, it's hitting me now. I think that the vibrational cone is something that is a practice. And when you say you can't go back to shareholder capitalism after you have experienced karmic capitalism, because it's just wrong.
It's better.
Wrong. If you're a person, it's wrong.
And so the knowingness. Okay, so let's. We can keep talking on this. Again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to throw some on there in comments. We'll certainly answer them. But let's talk about our own personal journeys on this, Denise. So we can talk, or do we want to talk about Patagonia? Because Patagonia is a good topic of a company that has traditionally been in that more of that karmic capitalism level. Where'd you like to go?
We have like a half an hour left. And I do think that we should talk about our own journeys. And we can maybe break up Patagonia in two, but it is hot right now.
Yeah.
But okay, for those of you who don't know, Patagonia is a really cool company that has lived its life dedicated to the earth and sustaining the earth, and doesn't give a shit what you think about it. And it's a fabulous case study in running a company based on mission, vision, values that are in our bucket of karmic capitalism, to the benefit of the earth. We have a white paper on that. If anybody's interested, we should start releasing our white paper into the wild, Adam. But there's been, so the guy who owns it has just announced that he's giving his company away to basically a consortium of nonprofits that all are in support of the earth. And I love this company. I love them. They give millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to earth-related causes, to indigenous people. They have a fund in the company that if you are thrown in jail because you're like working for Greenpeace on a boat and you get thrown in jail, they'll give you lawyers and they'll bail you out. Stuff like that. Okay, so people are saying right now, and this is like the current thing, that, oh, he's just avoiding $700 million in taxes. And I'm like, when you're a strategist, one of the first things you do is you flip and look at something from the opposite side. So, okay, when he is saying, oh, this guy knew there was something fishy about this. This guy is just avoiding $700 million in capital gains taxes. Okay, if he's avoided $700 million in capital gains taxes, it's all gone to the earth. Yeah. Thank God he avoided $700 million in capital gains taxes, because I know he's spending that money on the earth, climate change, doing whatever he can as an organization and giving it to people. So the other thing that really bothers me about people going, oh, he's just, it's like it's a tax evasion thing. And who does tax evasion? Well, let's look at the group that does tax evasion, please. Tax evasion has been declared, this is how business is done, because if the law exists, we're just going to work within the law. And that's how business is done.
Those are the incentives.
On what planet, we'll talk about planets later, but on what planet does this not bode for, we're just going to throw shade on this because that's what we do. We throw shade. That's how you're wired, really, to throw shade.
Well,
not throwing shade.
So I think the important point is I'll say a few of those publications are on the conservative side of things, that are looking to tear down rather than understand, right? And the media as a whole, I would say, they have no idea of consciousness, or they're using it to manipulate people knowingly. So either way, they're operating at a low level frequency.
Yeah. Unknowingly,
the news itself, right?
The conduct, this is just what they've learned, the conduct. So people who think that liberals own the media, it's like, I'm about as liberal as it gets. And the media screws up all the time. And the manner in which they conduct themselves is often wrong. It is often right, but it is often wrong. So conservatives don't own that. Everybody owns the conduct of the media.
And the whole media system is, I'll go back to this slide that we were talking about, is a fear. They want to make you angry. They want you to desire. They want to fear. They're trying to get you to tune in. And I will say this will be another part of this other topic that we're going to talk about, which sort of the bleeding hearts and save the planet type of thing. And I'm not discrediting what Patagonia is doing, because this is our experiential playing ground. We need to keep Earth. We're connected. It's all one life form, more than people realize. In fact, way more than people realize. We're actually all connected. However, if you research past life, future life regressions, all time happens at the same time. 5,000 years from now, this planet's still here and it's thriving. All right. Everybody wakes up the next day. It goes about their lives. At a soul level, this planet only destroys dies when we at soul level have decided we no longer can get out of this very dense planet. We can't get anything more out of this dense planet, and then we evolve beyond it, right? So, and which again is a whole other conversation that we'll have. But it's just, unfortunately, it comes with ignorance, right? And people are, again, monkeys with handguns, and I will say a lot of the media is absolutely monkeys with handguns for sure. And if you're tuning in and taking anything from the news, you are literally keeping yourself in a low vibration, and they are actually hurting you.
Yeah. Agreed.
So, so in Patagonia's point is no different, right? So,
right. But let's go back and talk about our own journeys.
So Denise, how did you discover consciousness? I'll say.
Okay, so I grew up in a house where, like, my mother saw dead people. My mother knew when when people are going to die. I got an aunt on the other side of the family who used to speak in tongues. She was very religious. So she would go into her state, and then I don't know what she spewed out, but I was pretty young. And I will at some point talk about my brother. But this podcast is homage to my brother. And I feel like I made a promise to him, and this is a promise that I'm keeping. So my brother was on a pretty serious journey. Point being, I was reading stuff at 14, 13 about Seth Speaks, which is, Seth is like a spirit. I don't know. Some people call him Jesus, and he talks through.
Yeah. Channeled readings. Yeah.
Channeled readings. I was walking down the block as a 10-year-old. We had an occult store half a block away, and I'd look at all that stuff. And please, like the concept of witchery and all that sort of stuff, we can talk about that later too.
We will. We'll demystify all of it. We'll everybody will realize that we're really talking about many ways science and physics. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And then, I remember in high school doing a spell. It was like, okay, I'm going to do a spell because I really like that boy. And oh my God, the spell worked, and I couldn't stand him, and I had to get rid of him. So I'm like, where did this come from? Okay, but we're going to talk about that later. So point being, I've had a whole lifetime of journey, and the garden that I was given as a child, many things have grown from that. And I looked at every religion. I listened to Tony Robbins when he was just coming out. I looked at and read Kierkegaard and Nietzsche and Stoicism, and this is my whole life. So it wasn't a lightning bolt. This is my whole life. And is it right or wrong? Doesn't matter. I'm not saying I know more than anybody else does, but this has been my whole life. So that's where I come from.
I think you said Roberts, but I know you meant Robbins, Tony Robbins.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's quite all right.
COVID. I still have COVID.
This is a real thing, by the way, everyone. No, that's super fascinating. So you really just kind of, I would say born into it, but really kind of evolved. It was a slow process, not a sudden like this is because people have it come from both sides, right? They hit a breaking point, and I feel like mine was a slow evolution, then it was a rapid expanse. So, for me, I guess for my entire life, I've always been optimistic, very positive person. I just knew that was the right sort of way to be. I was Vienna, Virginia. I grew up in Vienna, Virginia, Vienna optimist, but I always put it to sort of goal setting and power of positive thinking, right? Which is, it's important, but it's like doing something and not understanding why it's working, right? It's like, oh, I know this works, but I don't necessarily know why, and I couldn't sort of replicate it again and again and again. So I guess, so I've always been into that, but I guess, and I had a similar experience, what you're talking about with the witchcraft. I did something similar, and I was like, and then I got really afraid that something bad was going to happen.
I know, it's really scary.
Yeah, so I was like, I remember I probably was like 10 or 12 years old, and I was having a hard time. It was new elementary school. I had moved from one to the other, making new friends, and anyways, long story short, and kids could be mean, and I was really thinking about like, well, what if this, I want this, and I was trying to get positive, and I was just like, somebody help me, and then I was like really fearful of that I even did anything or prayed or that kind of way. And so I was worried about getting I was like, we're going to get in a car accident today. And the bus, like take the bus to school. We're going to get in one. I was like, I knew it. And suddenly I'm sitting on the bus and it gets in a wreck. And not a big one. It was a fender bender, but we still hit somebody. And it was like my heart. And I was like, oh, I'm never going to do that again, because I manifested that. And I didn't know these words. But so I just kind of always in the back of my head was kept being positive and thinking that I did something negative, and my career, I've always been the person that has been, okay, this is my goal, I will achieve it, right? And it will be exactly what I thought out, and I'll take my steps, I'll work hard and everything else. And I kept doing that, but I got to a point when working harder wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually killing me.
Mm-hmm.
I developed migraines I never had. I started to gain some weight. I've always had a very skinny, slim figure, so I've been blessed in that way. I don't have to work as hard as other people. Whether that's a subconscious belief or not, don't know. Or that was a gift from my soul planning on the other side, whatever. But regardless, and then I kept hitting the same ceiling again and again, and it really was in corporate. And so then I quit. I quit the corporate field, started my, bought a company, Sakunis, which is a small agency in Harrisburg, PA at the time. And again, I was hitting the same ceilings. And so then I started to look for answers, and I picked up Think and Grow Rich and a few. Actually, I picked that up before I bought the agencies, when I quit my job with Solaire Holdings. And that was kind of by Napoleon Hill, which is a great book. It's the idea of how your mind creates your reality. And it was written back in the 30s. It's an incredible book. I recommend everyone read it. It is dated, so terminology in it, just be nice. Don't take it for a negative. It's just the time, right? How people thought and the words they used, right? So then I started getting into, because then it was about managing the stress of, paying the bills, making sure we got cash flow, new clients, trying to create something new with, say, market invention, all that stuff. And actually market invention came after this sort of awakening, so to speak. And I remember it was like, I didn't have like a lightning bolt per se, but it was, I kept chipping away at it and learning more and going deeper on this, to the point of where I am now, where I'm all in. And that goes to the name of the podcast, right? All in.
We finally got around to it. We buried the lead.
We did. But and we'll make sure in the future podcast we'll talk about that, why we're saying it. But it is all in. I mean, you can't do this Monday through Thursday type of thing. And it's either, and really being good at this is understanding your belief and believing it at a deep subconscious level, because that's how you're manifesting your future. And that's, fear comes in. We're all human. You've got to be okay with your current reality as you're projecting the future. So I just mean is I got feedback, and I got some success, and I manifested more with ease. So I wasn't forcing things anymore. I was coming from a place of power, and it was like, I don't have to go to all these networking events about the client. The client found us. Wow. Whoa.
Cool.
What?
That
So
might
this is
be
mind blowing,
good.
and this is something like I'm tapping into this new thing that I guess I knew I was talented at it, but again, I was a monkey with a handgun in a way. So
Yeah. I find it super interesting because the parallels to marketing are like right there. Like when I had this problem with fire. Okay, fine. Like, like the Stephen King book, Firestarter. I had this problem with fire when I was a little girl, and I really felt guilty because I couldn't figure out if I caused the fire or if I knew the fire was happening. But which is part of this whole thing. Did I cause it? Maybe it's a little bit of both. The marketing is similar in the sense that people think I caused things to happen by the manner in which I marketed, or is it really people are coming, you are recognizing and tapping into something and and being available to that. So the idea of time comes into play here, because when you are talking about changing the way you work, you approach your life, being all in. If you're half in, and if you're a little bit in, and then if you're like a cynic and you say, oh, well, all I have to do is write on a piece of paper that, I want to be an NBA star and it'll happen. It's like, that's not it.
Right.
It's all in. When you are all in, then things happen. When you are half in, nothing happens. When you are all in and think in terms of, people look at science fiction as being fiction, and it is fiction, but oh my goodness, doesn't it come from, aren't we seeing as life progresses some of where the origin of these stories come from? The origin of Greek mythology, where does that come from? Why is it hung around so long? Yoda, where it's like be, don't be, try, don't try.
There is no try, like, do or not. Yeah. That
center, that polarity of do not do, try not try, that's that's where you find it. You find it in a place where you are all in and then you forget about it. I'm all in. This is where I live my life, and now I forget about it. So you can try to make stuff happen on a, and certainly you should plant your crops. Geez, we're not, saying that you don't, you don't have to do anything or initiate anything. You still got to go to the doctor. You still got to plant your crops.
You still have to send that email, right?
Yeah. You can't,
we still got to do the podcast, right?
I mean, still have to do the podcast.
And I think that's the difference, right? Anybody who does this really well, like they're master manifestors. And by the way, everybody's a master manifester who's listening in the world, because we've all manifested this reality ourselves into this reality, which is incredible. So cool. But it's the point, like you said, letting go and then taking inspired action, but not getting stressed out when in feeling like you just need to do more effort, more things to push it, right? More things is going to do it.
It didn't work in a minute.
It's because when you think you got to do more things and you're like all stressed about it, guess what? You're in a fear and lack, which means the universe is just going to give you more fear and lack. Right. So now you've got to really act as if you've already received it, even if your current 3D reality is not reflecting it, but you are graduating from that. So you're going to create a new, and then there's a detoxing process. So Denise, so you did kind of slow, and I did a slow, and then like rapid. I lost clients through this detoxing process. Left mastermind groups that didn't work anymore for where I was. I have, I mean, there is friends, like, I've lost some money that was fear-based money that I had in my possession. It went out. Now abundance, positive-based money, because money doesn't have, it's good or it's
not a good or
neutral.
bad.
It's neutral. It's a neutral energy, right? And there's a really good book by Mr. Honda about happy money, which is a great read. Everybody should read it. It's just about saying thanks. Even when you pay your electricity bill, and you're like, I don't really want to pay this. Be like, thank you. I have electricity. This is amazing. Thank you for giving me this service. And that's happy money. So, and then you'll get more back. And then the giving, like, the whole point of giving, if you don't give, then you're feeling lack, like you don't have enough, right? And staying in that place keeps you in that place, staying in your mind, and that will keep that reality. Then people and everything around you will attract you in that. So it is, doing this takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
And it is a great comment here from LinkedIn. I'm going to show it real quick. Money is neutral. You're right. It's the holder of it, has the power of choice. It's a wonderful thing. And it is a feature of this reality on this planet, which is unique to this planet, by the way.
Yes.
So a lot of people who come here are like, I don't understand money. Well, most of the universe doesn't understand it either, because it doesn't exist outside the universe. It's just something in this dense environment that we've created over time. But it's a way of saying gratitude. It's a store of gratitude, if you think about it.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly. And it shouldn't change you at your essence if you have it or you don't. A lot of people change when they get money. With excess money comes with money
just make what it does. It brings out your true self, because now you're not afraid.
Now you're not afraid.
So, and that's the other evolution of this in a corporate environment, especially big companies. What I've realized pretty quickly, everybody is trying to be a safe, neutral party, like almost generic versions of themselves, right? Well, I don't want to upset them. I can't be myself, because if I do, I might say it. If I start talking about karmic capitalism, my boss is going to think I'm crazy. If I start doing, I don't do sales calls, like cold calls, go through the list, because that's force, and I understand that now, and I'm doing a different model, but I got to meet my quota because First, you should probably leave that place. But second, those are the real realities. People that have, I won't say woke, but have woken up to this reality. Yeah, not the woke term, right? Because it's different. It's not woke. It's not woke. So, but being aware of this, suddenly you start to look at things and you're like, oh my God, I got to go through a detoxing process. So everybody kind of goes through that in their own way, and it's right. And another comment here, I'm just going to show it because it's exactly what we're saying. It just accentuates who you are, because you're not afraid to hide that generic version of you anymore, right?
Oprah said, money just got me closer to who I really am, because I can be who I really am. So I'm glad. Thank you, Oprah, for
and belief systems, right? Belief systems, one of them is money is the root of all evil. First, it is not. It's the love of money is the root of all evil. And that's not even true, right? That's not even true. So but our parents, money doesn't grow on tree. Actually, it kind of does. Money is actually made of trees. I don't know if here's the other part is fiat currency isn't money. And we're going to talk about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, because the blockchain is a liberation tool.
It's a big deal. Bitcoin.
For consciousness people, it's a liberation tool. It takes away that fear, because our wealth is being used for fear today, waging wars. All of this government spending, most of it is based off of fear or scarcity, right? And if we eliminate this, I'm not telling we can't ignore what's happening in Russia and Ukraine. That's a fear-based culture that's driving this, and Putin is scared. You know what I mean? All dictators are scared. They're fear-based. That's why they lose versus a higher level consciousness country like the United States, which is a whole other conversation. We talk geopolitics on one of these calls. But I just mean it is. So money is really a store of value, a store of wealth, a way of saying, store of gratitude. Currency is paper currency, which is the dollar, euro, wherever you're from.
Yeah.
That is not money. That's fiat, and the government prints it to oblivion, and it will go to zero someday, but that's a different discussion.
Of which you have many slides to share.
Yeah, we can get into that. And there's a lot of topics on that.
But yeah, we've delved into money, and I've always had this relation. I have really a dysfunctional relationship with money. Always have. But that's
and we'll dig into it. Then one of the next topics we want to talk about is how to eliminate these self-limiting beliefs that are holding you back and your organization. So if you're CEO, your lack of revenue or something else. Now, some of it might be divine timing. Okay, if you're doing everything right and it's not working, don't give up. So the universe is moving things around for you. A lot of times it's divine timing. Other times it's your subconscious belief systems that have been ingrained in our heads by our parents, society, marketing, media, and you have to unpack that stuff. We're willing to unpack that stuff, and some of it takes subconscious reprogramming, and there's techniques for all of this, which we'll discuss. But so we got like 4 minutes left. Anything you want to say? Because I'd like us to walk through an exercise talking about wealth, and I think, can we give somebody a tool so they can start experimenting with this on even just on manifestation level, right? Because how can we do it at a little level so you can get the sort of big wealth, so to speak? Because here's the thing: everybody should be abundantly wealthy in this universe, because everybody is already, right? Already you are. It just, do you believe it or not? And the money or currency will flow to you once you find yourself in that position. Denise, you want to share anything real quick? Then we'll walk through a sort of guided meditation.
No, go through your thing.
Okay, and so, all right. So everyone listening, and if you're watching, we're going to get into a meditation that's going to manifest some wealth. Now, we're going to start off small with a penny, okay? And you're going to manifest a penny after this. What's going to happen is, once you find that penny, we know that $1 billion is just as easy to manifest. However, it's what makes it hard is your limited beliefs. If you think that's a lot of money, then it will be hard for you to bring into your reality, because you haven't worked through those limiting beliefs yet. Because your subconscious rules you. Your conscious mind, what you see and think, is not running the show here. So just remember also, the brain is not the mind. The mind is above the brain. The brain is a muscle, and we have actually 7 muscles in our brains in our body, and those are the karmic centers. Heart is actually the biggest brain. It's the smartest, intelligent brain. This is actually one of the dumbest brains. This is a brain, and for people to say they're using the wrong brain, for dudes that just think about sex and things like that, using the wrong brain, that's a brain down there too. That's the root chakra. That's a brain. Everybody has them. So let's just think about this. So how to manifest. Let's talk about this real quickly, and then we'll get into this. Thinking of something isn't enough. You need to apply the energy to it, the emotion with the thought, and visualize it and believe it has already happened. And then you need to, sorry, I love this because it does work for parking spaces. So you can use this, apply this to anything. So I'm so happy you put that in there. Thank you. So somebody just say, parking spot can manifest parking spot every time. Yes, you can.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, it's great. It's fun. You can use this area. And you know, the movie The Secret talks about this, but again, you do have to do something. Like you need to walk down the street. You need to drive to Costco to get that parking spot, right? So I'm going to walk you through this. So imagine, I want everybody to close their eyes. And I'm going to close your eyes. So it's, again, we're going to walk through this. All right. And I want us to take 2 or 3 deep breaths. We'll just do 2 for time perspective. And when you deep breaths, the key is to inhale for 3 seconds, or fill up your chest and your stomach as all with your air. And you're going to hold it for 3 seconds, and then you're going to slowly release it out. And we're going to do it for a couple times. After we do this, then you're going to keep your eyes closed, and keep your eyes closed through the whole process, and get relaxed. So get in a relaxed position. If you're listening to this, the recorded version, please pull over if you're in the car. Do not do this while you drive. Find a comfortable place. If you're in the office, close the door, close your eyes, whatever. And if somebody comes up to you and say, dude, what are you doing? Just say, hey, I'm busy manifesting my future, man. You know, go do whatever you're going to do. But sit down, get calm. So everybody just relax. Just get in a comfortable position. And we're going to take 2 breaths. The first one, let's go. Inhale. Hold for 3 seconds. Slowly exhale. Now we're going to inhale again. Hold. Exhale. Do it one more time on your own. Now imagine yourself, you're walking down the street. It's a beautiful day. It's, you know, a fall day. It's today. And, you know, the sun's out, it's beautiful. People are smiling. You hear the birds, you know, really smell the fall air, either the leaves, you can really feel yourself there, and you're walking, and you're just feeling great. Now think of something while you're walking on the street. Just think of something that really makes you happy, the most happy experience you had. It could be the birth of your child. It could be winning a game as a coach. It just pick a memory that puts you in just a very grateful, gratitude, abundance space. Now, once you have that, okay, hold that emotion, feel it in your heart. Now we're walking down the street, and you look down and you see a penny. Now really visualize that penny. What year is on that penny? Is it heads? Is it flipped on tails? And pick up that penny. And when you pick that penny up, just feel the gratitude that the universe has brought you that penny into your manifestation with co-creation with the universe, and really get into that emotional gratitude state of just like, wow, I found a penny. I know it's just a penny, but man, does this penny mean so much more than just being a penny. And you can even smell the penny. It has that sort of copper, sort of metallic smell to it, and put it in your pocket. And then just keep walking down the street and just feel that gratitude. Now that you have that penny, I want everyone to open up their eyes, okay? Now that you've opened up your eyes and you have that penny. Now let it go. Just let it go, because you've already done it. And you will be excited when the penny comes to you. And I would love for you guys to drop some notes with us, some emails when you find your penny. I would love to hear that. Put it in the comments when you find your penny. And just know you can manifest a parking space like that. You can manifest a penny. You can manifest the love of your life. You can manifest anything, but you've got to believe it. You've got to be at that energy state, visualizing it. And whatever you're doing, you know, you should do this once a day, but don't feel like you don't have it, because you do have it. You already have it, because if all time exists and is happening at the same time, and our thoughts are creating future realities, which those future realities already have existed because they've been created. And if anything you see, you can achieve, because that's the law, because you've actually experienced it in this lifetime, then you already know it's happened. You already know it's happened. So what are you worried about? So just enjoy the day, and you guys are going to find your pennies. You're going to find a way more than that. So I just wanted everybody to do that. And, you know, Denise and I talked about doing something fun like this, and we'll try to do an exercise or something like this, this skill, because we all need practice. And the thing is, it starts off with a penny. probably $100, $1,000, or whatever. Just build it up. A new car, a new house, material things. This is a 3D reality. Don't feel like you shouldn't have these wonderful things, or it's not consciousness if wanting material things. Just know why you want them, and just make sure your want for these things isn't because of a lack of self-esteem of yourself, right? It's because you like them. It's okay. I love design. I love watches and I love cars. Part of what I do. I love it. And I'm just going to post right here because I know Jess here never fails and find a quarter. See, in the universe, the best thing about it is the universe gives you more than you expect. You actually, whoa, it's even more because it just wants to please. And it likes to overachieve, just to show you how powerful it is. This is the law of the universe. This is quantum physics. All of this stuff we're going to dig into. Denise, why don't you want to close it out here? Anything we want to say, and we'll conclude this first ever all-in podcast with Consciousness Incorporated. Denise.
All in. The only thing that I want to say is gratitude. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone who's listening, and thank you, Denise.
Everybody who is listening. Gratitude is everything, and we'll see you next week.
Yes, we will. And love feedback. Please post, share. This is how we make this world the place that it should be. And it's not a scarcity world. It's an abundant world, and everyone should experience it. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody. Denise has got to go. We've got to go. Thanks, everyone, and have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful week, and we'll see you on Thursday. Thanks again. Bye.